Hey everyone, we're doing another little species spotlight. And I think it's actually probably pretty bad that I called it Little Species Spotlight because today's episode is on the third largest species of tortoise in the world, and that is the sulcata or the spur-thighed tortoise. Spur-thighed tortoise. So, this one is honestly a big part of what we're going to talk about today. Why look, this is just a little one. This one is about 2 years old. He's adorable, and I say he, I'm not entirely sure what gender it is, or sex it is, but that's not really like the big issue. It's that they hatch out this big, and they're these adorable little tortoises, and they are very inexpensive to buy, but that can lead to some big issues down the road. So when I said that they were the third largest, that means that they often exceed weights of over 100 pounds. So a small person, and they can get 2.5 to 3 feet in length. So they can get as long as this table. Large males, they can get over 150 pounds. Very, very big males, and they frequently live over 80 years old. So they're not like the Aldabras or the Galapagos that are the size of like almost like a Volkswagen Beetle. But where are you going? But they do get very large and they live a very long time. So because they are so small when they come out, they're inexpensive. Where you can pick up a baby sulcata somewhere between $50 and $150 in a lot of cases. A lot of people think they make a pretty good pet because they're that big. They don't cost a lot. They don't fit in a big. You can put them in kind of whatever, right? Well, turns out these guys actually they don't make the best pets for a lot of people, but they can be rewarding pets. But the main reason is why is because they're huge. They basically turn into little armored cow tanks. They love to eat grass. That's actually the majority of their diet is grasses and hays. As well as a lot of other kind of like leafy vegetables, and they will just graze and feed all day long. And so to do that, they need kind of either a very steady food supply or a very wide pasture to graze into, which is a lot of room that a lot of people don't necessarily have. As tortoises and turtles, they need large amounts of UVB, so they have to have UVB. Period. There's nothing. There's no if, ands, or buts about that. And they require proper nutrition variation. They need the proper amounts of calcium and proper amounts of hydration, which is very hard to achieve sometimes because these guys are found in sub-Saharan Africa, in grassy plains, so it's pretty dry, but the humidity is still like in the 40 to 50% sometimes. So getting that and dry and hot can be a little bit of a challenge for people. They do like to soak a little bit, like not really swim, but soak. Like they will go up and like submerge themselves, up to their carapace, which is their shell. They'll completely submerge like that and drink water sometimes. Although with sulcatas like this, a lot of times they hardly will ever eat or hardly ever drink actual standing water. Most of the time they get it from the vegetation that they eat, which should be noted that unlike a lot of reptiles, these tortoises and most tortoises in general are 100% herbivorous, or they only eat vegetables, which is really cool. But as I said before, they get very large. And so when you start thinking about, so this little one, he's only about 2, but Speed Bump, as you've seen in some of the clips by now, he's at least 8 years old. We don't have the exact age on him, but he's at least 8 years old. And he's a lot larger than this little one. They do go through kind of growth spurts and things like that. And as you can see, if you look at his shell, there's a small amount of pyramiding going on. Pyramiding is what happens to a tortoise or turtle shell when they don't have the proper environment, nutrition, UVB, calcium. We're not 100% sure what causes it, but it usually has to do with a lack of husbandry or needs or dietary requirements. And then what that happens is those little sections on their shells will start to look like little pyramids. And it will vary in degrees of severity depending on how lacking that the requirements that it needs is having. So we have a leopard tortoise that is a rescue that has some pretty severe pyramiding. His speed bumps is not very severe, but it doesn't go away. So while he's growing substantially, he does get UVB, and then obviously in the warm summer months he's outside, which gives him the natural light. But that's a cause for concern, which is a big part of the husbandry that a lot of people need to address that most people don't think about. In fact, it is estimated that outside of red-eared sliders, these are the number one given up pet reptile that ends up in rescues and humane societies and rehabilitation facilities are the sulcata tortoises, because they can start to lay eggs very young, under 10 years old. They can have a lot of eggs. They can do it every year, and they're, again, very inexpensive. So, which is kind of essentially why the red-eared sliders are also a very prevalent species, because they can breed young, they can breed often, and they breed cheap. So unfortunately, that ends up the prevailing reason why they are so popular is because there's just a lot of them, and they can be produced very easily. But if you decide you do want to try to take on a sulcata tortoise as a pet, there are some things you need to think about. So number one is space. Eventually, they need outdoor requirements, period. We're in the process of figuring out where we're going to put a tortoise shed. We're going to build it next spring to where they will have access outdoors. But again, we're in Colorado, so they need to be able to achieve away from the cold, away from the super hot heat, and that goes for wherever you are. So if you live in Arizona, you need to make sure that you provide them water. You need to make sure that you provide them shade. If you're in the cold places, you need to make sure that you provide a place for shelter from the elements as well as heat when it gets cooler. And then in the winter months, an actual place where they can be entirely insulated and still receive the UVB that they need. They don't really hibernate like a box turtle would, because they come from savanna. They will kind of brumate a little bit, where they'll kind of slow down, not eat as much, but they never fully truly hibernate truly brumate like a box turtle here in the States would. The reason why they call them spur thighs are these big little spiky thighs in front of them like that, and they're very clear on speed bump. They use those as protection from predators like lions, hyenas, and painted dogs. They will pull themselves inside of their shell, which is their full body. Their ribs and everything and spine is all attached to the shell. It can't come off. And they do molt their shell as well. They use those as for protection. And then if you look at the bottom of their carapace, you can see it on speed bump. They have this cute little spur that shoots out from underneath their chin that males will use to combat. And that is something that can happen once you get a large tortoise, that they have a tendency to poke you in the ankles and shins with, which doesn't feel good, I can tell you that much. I've been spurred on by a big male spurred-thighed tortoise, and they can get kind of territorial too, especially with each other, especially with males between each other. So if you end up having a lot of space, a lot of people you see end up having like a little sulcata herd, the males kind of need to be separated, because they will kind of duel and battle a little bit. When it comes to whether or not males or females, males get larger, and with males, it's hard to tell on the young ones, but males, the bottom of their carapace, it's always concave, and that is to allow for, them to mount onto the females, which allows them to kind of get over the hump of the shell like that. And then the females, they're more flat. So male, it's concave, indented kind of like that to allow for, biology and everything to take its course. And females, it's a little bit flatter, as well as in a lot of tortoises and turtles, males' tails are a little bit longer and more slender. But again, it's really hard to tell exactly what they are until they've, got some age and size on them. But basically, kind of what I want to get around is that if you decide you want to get a pet sulcata tortoise, they are a commitment to both space, time, and money. You need to be able to feed them a lot. They require hay and grasses all the time, as well as fresh veggies, or if there's also like prepared commercial diets like Maserati tortoise food that really works really well. Unfortunately, my guys refuse to eat it because I got them started on fresh veggies and hay, and that's what they eat now. So, you need to be able to provide them lots of UVB, plenty of heat, plenty of space, daily water changes, sometimes multiple times a day water changes, because We've all seen that meme of the bearded dragon online that says, "Oh, nice water, human, thank you. I'm a poop in it." Well, tortoises are the absolute worst culprits of that. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to do enclosure thing with the tortoises, and they immediately either poop in it or they throw substrate or hay into it. They are not fun. They can be a little bit messy, but they are very individualistic. They do have their little personalities, and while there's some personification going on there a little bit, they are individuals. That is 100% the case. They do have some fun little intelligence. And they are escape artists, which is one last thing. Lately, unfortunately, a lot of venomous reptiles seem to be getting the news lately, but every year there are escaped giant tortoises, usually in the warmer climates during the summer when they let their things out, because they love to dig burrows. So if you're going to have an outdoor enclosure, make sure that it is kind of tortoise proof, where you dig down a little bit with their barriers so they can't escape it. Maybe line it with like rock or something where they can't dig through. And then if kept indoors, like a small little one, he's actually kept in an aquarium right now because he's a little too small to be mixing with speed bump and pinecone. They don't really understand glass too well, and if they can see past it, they will try to get through it, which is how you end up with those adorable images online of like the sulcata going through drywall and things like that. They can be very destructive animals indoors. So not really a good idea to have a free roaming tortoise inside, at least for extended periods of time. But they can be really cool pets. It makes it sound like I'm kind of ragging on them. I'm really trying not to. But they are really cool pets. They are really cool reptiles in general, but it is something that needs to really have quite a bit of forethought and insight and knowledge and experience to really take one of these on. I wouldn't ever necessarily call them a beginner or starter reptile whatsoever. A lot needs to be taken in consideration: price, food, longevity, commitment, space, everything like that. But they are still a really cool pet reptile. I'm glad I have the two that I have. I'm certainly not looking for more because I'm well aware of the fact that I will not have enough room to have an entire herd of giant tortoises. But with that being said, I absolutely love them to death. I greatly look forward to having them with me for a very long time, indoors and out, because they are kind of outgrowing even now, their indoor large enclosure. So next year they'll be moving outside, hopefully to their tortoise shed and big area to graze. Oh, hey, he's greeted us. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Sorry I kind of rambled on a little bit. I always get kind of ranty when I talk about like kind of bad choice reptiles. Not to say that there's a bad reptile, but just reptiles that end up being a little too popular for their own good. I end up always getting on my little soapbox. But hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, no, I am not planning on breeding these guys whatsoever, even if this one turns out to be a female, because we know Speed Bump's a boy. But no, I'm not planning on breeding them. I don't want to add to that population kind of over thing. If you are interested in them, try to check out your local humane societies or reptile sanctuaries. There's usually a few extra sulcatas running around. And they'll probably want to check out and make sure that you kind of know what you're getting into. But I would definitely say let's get a rescue sulcata before getting a new baby one. As much fun as it is to have a cute little baby thing like this, I think it would be much better to get them from someone who can't take care of them because they kind of took on more than they could, or their life experiences are changing and they're not able to. But again, I apologize for getting a little ranty there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Questions, comments, concerns, please let me know down below in the comments. Check out our Patreon if you want to. It kind of helps add to things like this to better for our education programs that we're hoping to really get established this coming school year, or leading into the next year, working with a couple different groups to help me really get started on that, because I would love to be able to do in-person reptile classes and shows again once the whole COVID thing is really under wraps a little bit. But I really want to get started on that, and that will kind of help go to that, as well as just the kind of general well-being and healthcare of the animals, as well as just kind of helping out a little bit. And I really appreciate it. There's multiple levels, and they each have their own little name, including one named after Speed Bump. They all have cool little fun rewards, from stickers, t-shirts, merch, online tours, and specific just like kind of Q's and A's and chat sessions with me. So if you want to take a look at that, I would greatly appreciate it. And so does Speed Bump and this little one too. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll check you next time.